Hello and welcome to the fourth of LSBU's Climate Emergency Debate Series. This does feel like a rather special occasion because today's event is part of the Global Earth Day movement. This year's Earth Day theme is Restore Our Earth, and it covers natural processes, emerging green technologies, and innovative thinking that can restore the whole world's ecosystems. All those topics are very relevant to the built environment. Earth Day is still the planet's largest civic annual event, and the first Earth Day back in 1970, which I do remember that day, played a huge part in the launch of the modern environmental movement. Not surprisingly, it has helped to influence environmental thinking around the globe and has also been the catalyst for some landmark environmental laws. In a few minutes, we're going to hear from Jane Davidson, architect of the rather revolutionary Wellbeing of Future Generation Wales Act. This brilliantly conceived enabling law gives Wales, one very small country, the ambition, permission and legal obligation to improve its social, cultural, environmental and economic well-being. Let me say those things again. Ambition, permission, and then legal obligation. The order of those words is critical. Rather than foist a thou shalt not punitive law full of constraints and limitations, the well-being of future generations is an enabling law. It gives permission for Wales to be visionary, to be ambitious, to look for creative and inclusive ways to protect culture, planet and people. The outcomes since it became law in 2015 have been so visionary and so extraordinary, and the law so fully supported by the population. It's no surprise that there is a movement to replicate that law, with modifications for a larger jurisdiction within and across the UK. We urge you to get involved. Now, more than ever before, we must bring pressure on our government to enact legislation that matches the headline targets that they bandy about. Because despite declaring a binding policy target of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050, recent UK government actions have left global watchers and UK citizens somewhat aghast at decision after decision being made in direct contradiction to our zero target. We need to challenge our leaders to commit to climate actions on a global scale. Because, as Kathleen Rogers, president of the Earth Day organization, has so kindly said, we are on the edge of a cliff, and if we don't act now to reduce our carbon emissions, there will be no way back. Citizen action and pressure on our government is critical. Look at the Greta effect, the demands of Extinction Rebellion. Look what happened after the declaration of a climate emergency in 2019. We've witnessed wave after wave of phenomenal change. Take citizen engagement. Statistics now show that the majority of the global population are on side with the climate agenda. The level of understanding about the consequences of biodiversity loss are at its highest ever. What is more, all the evidence suggests we're at an extraordinary, unprecedented tipping point, where the demand for change from global citizens is gathering pace. What would have seemed a few years ago unfathomable, people want this change. What is more, this support and pressure looks like it's swelling, despite the pandemic and global economic woes. Events that would normally cause a contraction of such a movement. The declaration of a climate emergency in the UK has rippled outwards too. 3/4 of UK councils and 8 city regions have declared climate emergencies in their own jurisdictions, with many going further than the government target, setting ambitions to be carbon neutral by 2030. Now, this is no small task. Largely without budget and mandate, cash-strapped local authorities are committing to not just reducing their own carbon emissions, but forming climate emergency responses across homes, buildings, transport, planning, nature and ecosystems, and developing fit-for-purpose funding and accounting systems. We'll hear from Cornwall Council later and how it's reframing its decision-making, adopting the donut a little later. This sea change is certainly being felt within the built environment. We may lack the legislative lead, but there is plenty of ambition and clients are making new demands. There are still many changes to be made, from the fuel we use or don't, the stock we have built, to the way we build, inhabit and monitor our buildings. It seems like a monumental task. And when so many things need to change, there is a danger that nothing does. So where do we focus? How do we organize? How do we make this change? This is exactly what the LSBU's Climate Emergency Series is all about. The ambition of these events is to bring people together of a like mindset, to understand what's happening across the country at macro and micro level. We want to understand with you how change is manifesting and what is needed for the built environment sector and how to catalyze and scale that change. We want to find out what mindsets, what processes, what knowledge and skills are in demand and provide an opportunity for those with such skills to help and find ways to develop the training and education and collaborations to meet the need. So today, we've gathered a panel who hold a wealth of knowledge. And by bringing people together to share that knowledge, we hope we can all take inspiration and start to collaborate and find answers to some of these really difficult questions. So without any further ado, I hand you over to our keynote speaker, Jane Davidson, author of #FutureGen, Lessons from a Small Country, Vice President of Sustainability and Engagement at the University of Wales, and architect of the quite remarkable Wellbeing of Future Generation Wales Act. Over to you, Jane.